Bella Adade, yes, yeka Bella Adade, I think say, enipa bebre na ewrebe fino. Berla Mundi asem na making.
Every day wahala. So trouble we dey make. When we wake up and then go out, so trouble we dey create.
In 2013, Berla Mundi joined EIB network, which is GhOne TV, or joining after 2010 obey second runner up Miss Malaika show no sono and obey joining EIB network in 2013. Before that no na one Chatter House edin kan aye ejuma ansa na oba be joining as a media person ankasa obeba TV so 2013 and obey joining GhOne. Yes, fast forward in 2019 obe hosti Ghana Music Awards oko hosti Ghana Music Award with ya papa Kwame Sefakan or Peace FM drive morning drive show no oni co-hosti and afi so in 2018 obe wini RTP Awards the best entertainment show host RTP in 2019 nyina na owo GhOne afi yehu ya ne say yese Berla Mundi free GhOne ako join Media General which is TV3 ana okwa join na okono na etwetwe nkofo so from that very day no till date no nim die nti a Berla Mundi free GhOne eko TV3 EIB General Media General asoye na wakasa wama reason as to why a man free EIB network GhOne TV at the bar Media General TV3 na nensama a woka nyina etia o say ewiase no nipa se wo ho no ma na se wo hia growth you need to move from your old place in a new place just to get a new vibe, just to get new challenges and money ade na all kasan na wo chire mu say yes eyenkofo bebre won say ono Berla Mundi free GhOne because as at that time no na GhOne ana aso ni mu ado she was very popular no emra in 2010 and no Miss Malaika no but oba GhOne obeye popular pa obekọ so ye tinankofo bebre Ghanaians dodo na eka say ase we betray GhOne edi na bi GhOne enna chawo kakran na afei benya da mileage population no embe follow no money ade na afei prekope uso wo free GhOne okasa ewo program bi ase growth summit bi a omoye ne 2024 yi ana odi tudwa say de nti a emani free GhOne ne transition no free GhOne de ba TV3 ye say na all certain needs bi free GhOne but na GhOne intimi enyama no so during that time no emano eba be ye slow kakra aden nisa mihia no mensan kadia adenti though it was a very challenging moment for her na won fa ne trasa okọ no aba no odwen ho no yesei no consult ebi mu good say wo se mekọ e good say ba ono ankasa face ni challenges ana oye na adwen say obeye den obe free GhOne no akọ TV3 Mr. so on subscribe to your channel ya e be so obe subscribe e de amaye na afi wa hiti the notification bell no enso so e de amaye. Don't forget I go by the name Blomahn and I am your proud American blogger.
And usually I know on social media or when we get to speak in public we always talk about the nice things that happen in our lives, but we're human like everybody else, and so at the end of the day we even face more challenges than anybody, especially because there's a lot of spotlight on us, and so people assume that things should be easy, but that's when the challenges become difficult. So I'll talk about the last parts of my journey at GhOne into TV3, and I want to use that to just let you understand that sometimes if you sit at one place, you're sitting on your blessing, and it's difficult to make that decision to eventually move, but that move is what brings the growth. But before you make that move, you should have a goal. Do you get how I'm connecting it? Okay. So latter part of my days at GhOne, things had become very tough. I felt like I had grown to a certain limit and the platform could not offer me what I wanted anymore. But I was afraid to make that bold step to leave. And that was because my whole journey as a broadcast journalist had started with GH1 when it was for Charterhouse and eventually when EIB bought it. So from the inception up until that point in my life, I felt like I owed the company, something, a favor, or my career. And so it was going to be very difficult for me to say finally that I'm done and I need to move. I was looking for a way to move because things had become very difficult. In a void, would rather you stay there and just plateau. I mean, they didn't say plateau, but they just said, we also couldn't find anybody who could do that job, so you might as well stay there. But I had interviewed everybody that mattered in the music industry, in the arts industry, and I was tired. Because a month later, the same person will come and I have to now think of what other question to ask. Because I was recycling them over and over. So I told myself I was done with this and I needed a show that would challenge me. And I was done talking about music only and what are you doing, what's your album about. I just wanted something a bit more challenging. My bosses said no. I had to fight. I had to cry. There were guests who would walk into the building and they'll find me crying. And they're thinking, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, my bosses don't want me to start my new show. And it was all very upset because they just didn't understand the backstory of it. Now, eventually I had people who helped me and I started that show. A year into that show, I'm told, it's time to move again. And I'm telling God, but you just gave me this idea. So why do I have to move? And he says, well, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to move. Because I made you start this show for a reason. And that was supposed to prepare you for the next journey. I still didn't understand. So TV3 gets in touch with me. The first time, I want to move. I tell them, okay, I'll come. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, you people, you're jokers. I'm not moving. So I accept, I sign a contract and everything. It's time for me to move. And then I have to tell them the bitter truth. I'm sorry, but I cannot make it. And it pissed everybody off, I'm sure, at TV3. They were very disappointed because they were just about ready to, put out the PR and say, so Berla is joining us. And this is me being so afraid to move. And so I got stuck in that space. For another 6 months, I was there. Now, this move came in March. So if my calculation is right, the final move I made was in September. So maybe about 5-6 months. Now, while I was there, things took a turn because I was disobedient. I knew I had to go, but I wasn't going. So God said, if that's the case, thank you. If that's the case, then I'm going to make it even more difficult for you. So now all the negative things that had to happen would happen. The backbiting started. There were a lot of accusations here and there. There were people who were treating me like I didn't matter. And I just didn't understand what it meant. But it was just God making the space uncomfortable for me. So eventually, I just told my manager that, you know what, let's see if there's still an opportunity at TV3. So we started having that conversation. They said, well, there is an opportunity still. We left that slot open for you. However, you need to assure us you're coming because we're not going to put together all the materials, getting ready to announce, and you won't come again. And I said, oh, I'm very sure I'm going. Because at that time I had it. I just couldn't take it anymore. I didn't see myself growing at that point. I was more depressed so I'd come to my show. If my show started at 3 o'clock, I'd get to work at 2:45. That's how badly I didn't want to be in that space. So 2:45, I'm there, and my boss is looking at me like, why are you coming this late? I'm like, oh, sorry, boss, I was doing something. But really, I'd wake up in the morning, and there was really no drive for me to want to be in that space. So I come at 2:45, my show ends, it's an hour, so it ends at 5, and I'm out. And that was consistent for a while. So I knew it was time. Luckily for me, there was an opportunity, and I had to move. Now, before that, I needed to ask myself, what really is your goal? Because it's not enough to say, I'm not comfortable here, so I just want to move. Sometimes you don't have a plan. Sometimes God has a plan for you.
Video no na yakwa akohwe aba no. Ti, okasa say no ana no odi tu eye Ghanaians, most especially youth no, odi tu ye for eye Belinda Adade dodo na enim sesa na ni full name etie. Berla Mundi ni de eye showbiz name. Berla Mundi ni ye showbiz name. Na Berla Mundi free GH1 eba TV3 no. Wa kosro sa wa hosti dinner party ya flying ko beat amana ko hosti dinner party with Benna Boy, Davido, Whiskey, Thames, no, a whole of like African big stars no money ade no wa hosti omo emra BTC a friend no. And oba TV3 no aso se wan kasa wo hwe a emmoa ben na aboa eye Berla Mundi minu mienu nyina ya awe se emmoa aboa Berla Mundi eye bebre through TV3 wetimi di aware TV3 wetimi di enya a whole lot of fortune so no money ade nti ukɔhwɛ video no message so obɛkyerɛ wadwen ye wo comment section no enwoma na eye Berla Mundi ka no se edimu anase endimu aso ehu hia ye so obefri GhOne akɔ TV3 ana. Once again, I go by the name Blomahn, and I am your proud American blogger. Make sure so subscribe to him. Amaye. Now if you watch it, no I like it, no I comment it, and so the amaye makramo.
Every day wahala, so trouble we dey make. When we wake up and then go out, so trouble we dey create. Every day wahala, so trouble kwa bema. Na sienya sitana who say yeah, but that stress I sem never.